On the first day I entered the campus novel as the villainous male supporting character, I directly gave the male lead 2 solid slaps in front of my cheating girlfriend Sophie and everyone else at the flag-raising platform. I said sorry, just bullied my half-brother. I'm really satisfied with myself, back to my old tricks as the villainous male supporting character. Anyway, too many debts don't weigh you down. After all, being a simp is not my style. Chapter 1. At this moment in the monthly assembly at Area A's middle school, a sea of students sat beneath the flagpole, with those being reprimanded or praised standing on the stage. But there were only 2 of us. One was me. The other was the male lead, Nathan. The teacher said, "Last week Lucas from Class 1 Grade 3 publicly bullied his classmate Nathan in the hallway and was caught on the spot by the principal. The situation is serious, so we are issuing a formal reprimand and asking him to reflect on his actions." When the female teacher read out my name, she didn't even try to hide her contempt. I stood on stage, my expression unchanged as I took the microphone from the teacher's hand. I said, "Last week I verbally bullied my classmate Nathan. As for that, I paused, giving a wicked smile before continuing, "I am incredibly pleased with myself. Of course, I also hope he will remember what I said and be deeply impacted by it." Upon hearing this, the students below erupted in shock. The teachers on stage immediately turned pale. I smugly watched their expressions change. What was this? Just a small beginning. Nothing more. Standing behind me, Nathan, who had been smiling proudly just moments ago, now looked horrified. When I suddenly turned toward him and started walking in his direction, he involuntarily took a few steps back, but it was too late. 2 loud slaps echoed in the room. I clapped my hands together, feeling the heat in my palms as I looked down at Nathan, who was now on the ground. I couldn't help but smile wider. I said, "Sorry, I bullied my half-brother. I'll reflect on that, but if this illegitimate child dares to come to my doorstep again, I'll still hit him." My mocking voice echoed through the microphone, reaching every student in the audience. Seeing this, the teacher quickly rushed forward and snatched the microphone from my hand, fearing I might say something even more outrageous. I walked off the stage, leaving him behind as I proudly strutted away. Only a mess and a group of onlookers remained. Nathan's moment of praise today was definitely gone in the wind. If I remember correctly in the book, the original protagonist did exactly this today, publicly read out an apology letter admitting to his bullying actions. The malicious male side character receiving criticism sharply contrasted with the male lead, who had always been seen as a top student in the eyes of others. From then on, the protagonist's high school life was marred by isolation from classmates. No matter what he did, others would link it to bullying Nathan, even if the protagonist hadn't done anything wrong. Was it wrong to warn Nathan, as an illegitimate child, to stay away from my fiancée? Was it wrong to tell him not to act wild in my house? No, there was nothing wrong with it. The only mistake was that the original protagonist didn't act ruthlessly enough toward him. Not being ruthless enough as the villain side character, that was the real taboo. Chapter 2. Following the memory, I walked towards the school gate and quickly dialed the driver's number, asking him to come pick me up. When I reached the gate, the security guard stepped in front of me with a serious look and stopped me. The guard said, "Student, you're not allowed to leave the school during class hours." Seeing that he wasn't being hostile, I didn't want to make things difficult for him. I turned away sharply, twisting my thigh, and said with a pained expression, "So my mother passed away. I need to go home immediately." The guard awkwardly withdrew his hand, his face showing sympathy. He sighed a few times before patting my back and saying, "Your mother wouldn't want to see you like this. Go ahead, hurry." As I walked out of the school gate, the guard continued to watch me with a sympathetic gaze. Once outside, I saw that the driver was still on the road and estimated it would take him another 20 minutes. Looking around at the variety of shops, I quickly picked out a barbecue place. Inside there were only a few scattered people, and I ordered 20 skewers of grilled kidneys, sitting down in a quiet corner. I loved grilled kidneys. It was a habit I brought from my previous life, especially when I was in a good mood. I'd reward myself with a few skewers. I enjoyed my meal alternating between the juicy kidneys and a soda. Just as I was savoring a bite, a light, gentle voice sounded by my ear. The voice said, "You're amazing, you hit him so symmetrically." I turned around and there stood a young girl in a school uniform gracefully standing behind me. Her skin was fair, her features delicate, and her elegant curves made even the school uniform look stunning. I shook the skewer in my hand, looking at her with a somewhat uncertain gaze. I asked, "Are you talking to me?" She nodded, her eyes clear. "Of course," she replied. I coldly turned my head away and said, "I don't know you." Upon hearing this, the girl visibly flinched, her body halting mid-motion as she was about to sit down. Beep beep beep. Just then the driver called me. I stood up and began to leave. She watched me, opening her mouth as if to say something but held back. I had no time to play guessing games with this little girl. Chapter 3. As soon as I entered the house, I hadn't even taken off my shoes before my mother started on me, yelling. She said, "You have no respect for your teachers, you bully your classmates, and you even aired our family's dirty laundry. What the hell do you want to do?" My expression remained calm and there was no real ripple in my heart. I had already predicted this outcome. After placing my shoes, I slightly lifted my eyelids and finally focused on my mother. She was a woman still holding on to her charm despite her age. No wonder she had managed to mesmerize my father back in the day, causing him to sever ties with his grandparents and marry her at all costs. But in the end he had made a mistake. He died without knowing that before being with him she had secretly had a child with another man, hiding him in her hometown and sending money every month to support him. I walked past my mother toward the couch and with a light tone asked, "What else? Should I just let that illegitimate child walk all over me?" Just moments ago my mother had been hysterical, but now she fell silent. She bit her lip and said, "What illegitimate child? He's your brother, your family. I just plan to bring him home soon. Why are you making such a fuss?" From the way she spoke it sounded like everything was my fault. I smiled and said, "What brother? I don't have the habit of casually recognizing brothers. You'd better not either. And this villa belongs to the Wang family, not the Ito family. If things really get chaotic, I'm sure Grandpa and Grandma will come to discipline me. You don't need to be so upset." My tone was indifferent and each word struck hard. The Ito family was far from a prestigious one. All we had today was thanks to the protection of the Wang family. My mother had long since run her own company into the ground. These years she had only survived because of the dividends I received from the Wang Group shares. Even the villa we lived in was registered under my name. She frowned, clearly unhappy, and snapped, "Is this how you talk to your mother? How could I have given birth to such a child? Am I not allowed to scold you? You Wang family people are all the same." My mother was furious, stomping her feet and grabbing a feather duster, clearly intending to discipline me. I stretched my wrists expressionless and just stared at her. At that moment Anna, who had been watching from the shadows for a while, quickly stepped forward and said, "Madam, please don't get so upset. If something happens to you, wouldn't we need to call Mr. Wang on the other end?" Anna was sent by Grandpa to watch over me. Since I was the only heir of the Wang family, nothing could go wrong. I smiled and said, "Mother, it's better if you calm down. I'm going to rest now. Being scolded is exhausting." I glanced at my mother, who was on the verge of exploding, my voice flat and devoid of any emotion. It felt tiring just talking to her. Later, according to Anna, after I left, my mother received a call from none other than Nathan. All the anger she could invent on me was poured out on him, and she cursed him for 2 whole hours. I hadn't expected this, but I rather enjoyed the development. Chapter 4. The next day I entered school as usual, but along the way I noticed everyone was looking at me strangely. A district high school was known as the top elite school for the wealthy. The people there were either rich or noble. As for me, I was the first to openly speak about having an illegitimate sibling. As soon as I walked into the classroom, all eyes turned to me. Someone muttered, "Oh, someone still has the face to come to class. If it were me, I'd have applied to drop out by now." The two people sitting in the corner started to throw sarcastic comments the moment I entered, but without anyone backing them up. Their words seemed especially awkward. I coldly glanced at him. It was Nathan's two lackeys. I smiled and said, "You're right. Who would have thought? Usually you two are like thick as thieves with Nathan, but it looks like even you can't stand this illegitimate child attending our school." They were clearly caught off guard by my words, their faces turning red. "You." One of them stood up angrily but was quickly pulled back down by his companion. I walked to my seat and sat down. Just then Sophie, who had been absent yesterday, walked in. Her long hair swayed as she walked and her face was as beautiful as ever. But seeing her now only filled me with disgust. The original protagonist had treated her as his goddess, protecting her with everything he had, but in the end she betrayed him with Nathan. Now that I think about it, the original protagonist was really stupid. How could he not see through such an obvious white lotus? Sophie walked straight to my desk, her face filled with worry as she asked, "Lucas, are you okay?" "I heard what happened yesterday." "Nathan, I interrupted her coldly. "Get lost." Sophie was stunned, her eyes reddening as she continued, "Lucas, I know you're angry, but Nathan is your brother. You shouldn't." I said, "Get lost." I emphasized each word clearly. Sophie bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. Just then Nathan walked in. Seeing Sophie crying by my desk, he immediately rushed over, pulling her into his arms. He glared at me and said, "Lucas, what did you say to Sophie? Why is she crying?" Looking at this scene, I couldn't help but laugh. I said, "Nothing much. Just told your goddess to get lost." "What, you want to hit me?" Nathan's face darkened as he growled, "Lucas, you've changed. You're not the same person anymore." I smiled and replied, "You're right. I'm not that stupid anymore." Just then Emma walked in. She glanced at the scene before her and said, "Oh, what a touching scene. The white lotus and her knight in shining armor." Her voice was light, but everyone could hear the mockery in it. Sophie's face changed slightly. Nathan frowned and said, "Emma, what are you saying?" Emma smiled sweetly and replied, "Nothing much. Just that some people really know how to put on a show." With that she walked to her seat, which happened to be next to mine. The teacher walked in, and everyone returned to their seats. During the break I noticed Emma kept stealing glances at me. Finally she couldn't hold back anymore and asked, "Hey, why did you hit Nathan yesterday?" I looked at her and said, "Because I felt like it." Emma was taken aback by my direct answer, but then smiled brightly. "I like your style," she said. I ignored her and continued reading my book. The next few days passed peacefully. Nathan and Sophie seemed to have learned their lesson and stayed away from me. But Emma kept trying to talk to me. Finally one day she cornered me and said, "I know you're not really a bad person. You're just protecting yourself, right?" I looked at her expressionlessly and said, "You're wrong. I am a bad person." Emma shook her head stubbornly. "No, you're not. I can tell." I sighed. This girl was really persistent. Just then my phone rang. It was from the Wang family butler. "Young master, your grandfather wants to see you." I hung up and left without another word to Emma. Would you like me to continue with the final segment? When I arrived at the Wang mansion, Grandpa was sitting in his study. He looked at me and said, "I heard about what happened at school." I remained silent. Grandpa continued, "You did well. That woman has been getting too bold lately, thinking she could bring that child into our family." I nodded. Grandpa smiled, "You're different from before." "Good. The Wang family needs someone like you." I understood what he meant. The original protagonist had been too soft, too naive. But I wouldn't make the same mistakes. Grandpa then said, "I've arranged for you to study abroad. You'll leave next week." I wasn't surprised. This was probably his way of protecting me. "Thank you, Grandpa," I said. As I was leaving, Grandpa called out, "Remember, you're a Wang. Don't let anyone look down on you." I smiled. Of course I wouldn't. The next day at school I handed in my withdrawal papers. As I was leaving, Emma caught up to me. "You're really leaving?" she asked. I nodded. She bit her lip, then suddenly hugged me. "I'll miss you," she whispered. I gently pushed her away. Take care." Those were my last words to her. As I walked out of the school gates I didn't look back. The original protagonist's story ended here, but mine was just beginning. I wasn't going to be anyone's stepping stone. I was going to write my own story. And in this story I wasn't the villain. In the end I was simply someone who refused to be a fool.